Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So yes, we have done with ethics and human interface. So now we'll be dealing with a very important unit with respect to ethics. See, with respect to this topic, like lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers and administrators, along with contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and world. Actually, this subject, this topic is very important because see, questions are will be definitely asked from this topic with with respect to ethics, as you all know. But at the same time, the different aspects of this topic can be used as an example for uh, questions from other sections of ethics too, and also it can be used in society. Examples of society questions in GS1 essay paper. These are all the places where we can use this thinkers. So there are a lot of different dimensions in this lecture, like in this unit, like Western thinkers, Indian philosophies, administrators, everything will be there, but we'll be dealing with them one by one. Starting from, let's begin with the Western thinkers. In this video, we'll be looking about 5 Western thinkers who are Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Immanuel Kant, and Thomas Aquinas. So let's start from Socrates. See, as you all know, Socrates was born in 470 BC in Athens and was known for his well dialogues and debates with different public figures and authorities of that time. See, he was a very famous person at that point of time, what was mostly involved in debates and stuff. Okay, so let's look into his philosophies. So Socratic method. See, it's referred to as form and inquiry and dialogue. See, what it means is it involves in asking the probing questions to bring a critical thinking, which also encourages self-examination. See, it really aims to challenge the people's assumption, reveal inconsistencies, and bring in deeper truths. Like, well, civil servants in real examples can use this technique to bring in open dialogue with different stakeholders in society, engage in the inquiry, rational inquiry, and take on well-informed decisions. Like, example, when during the policy discussions of a district or what state or nation or whatever, civil servants can use the probing questions to encourage and analyze and consider different perspectives, which can be used before coming into a solution. That is what Socratic method speaks about. Next is virtue ethics. See, it is nothing but primarily concerned with helping a person to become better through self-improvement. Like, Socrates argued that the ultimate goal of human life is to achieve eudaimonia, which is often translated as flourishing or living well. So again, we can bring in the concept of civil servant here, who, when he adheres to virtue ethics, he or she may resist corrupt practices, act justly, and make decisions which considers for the long-term benefits of the societies, but not just for the personal gains. So this is something which can be taken about of virtue ethics. It's concerned with helping one person become a better person through self-improvement. See, yeah, and also Socrates also argues that ethics is not about physical or external condition, but also happiness flows, like wealth or power, but from a living a life that is right for the soul. What it clearly says is Socrates says that happiness flows not only from physical or external conditions such as wealth or power, but also living a life that is right for the soul. Like a Delhi-based food joint, Shyam Rosi, serves thalis for rupees one, and which became a lifesaver for those who lost jobs during the pandemic. This is something which you have happiness. Next is know thyself. See, Socrates believed that self knowledge was very, very fundamental to leading a meaningful and virtuous life, where he encourages the individuals to engage in introspection and examine their own thoughts, which can help them in identifying their strengths, weaknesses, bias, limitations, whatever, etc. So it recognizes the people often deceive themselves or remain ignorant about their own flaws or shortcomings. Like his quote, which can be mentioned here, is unexamined life is not worth living. Next is equality and justice. See, Socrates emphasized the ideals of equality and justice, where he believed that every individual in worth and should be treated with fairness and respect. Like you should treat everyone equally. That's what Socrates says. He argued that involved giving justice involves giving each person what they are due and ensuring that laws and social structures are based on principles of equity and righteousness. That is something Socrates really wanted to maintain that. Like again, civil servants can work towards implementing policies which help in reducing the social disparities, providing equal access to public services, and upholding the principles of justice uh, along with the distribution of resources. This is something Socrates says about equality and justice. Next is virtue is knowledge. See, Socrates believed that ignorance was the root cause of immorality. See, in his view, like what he says is individuals possess complete knowledge of understanding of what is morally right. They would naturally act accordingly. Like example, if you know that following honesty is good thing, you will do that. So if you know, if an individual knows what he what is morally right, they would act accordingly. That is what Socrates says. See, knowledge is what not only limited to factual information or expertise in specific field, according to Socrates, but he also focuses on moral and ethical knowledge, which makes what is truly good and how to live a virtuous life. That is what Socrates brings into the context of ethics. So this is something we will be looking in about Socrates. Coming to next, let's look about Plato. See, Plato, he was a student of Socrates and the teacher of Aristotle, whom we'll be dealing with next. He expressed his philosophical ideas through dialogues, which he used the conversation between characters to explore the various philosophical concepts. Like he established the academy in Athens, that became known as Platonism. See, Plato's philosophy is based on four cardinal values: courage, justice, wisdom, and moderation. See, courage is nothing but bravery to do justice and remove the obstacles which disturbs the path of justice. Like we can say, like Satyendra Dubey was an Indian engineering service officer who was working as a project director in NHAI at Koderma, but was murdered in Gaya, Bihar after fighting corruption in the Golden Quadrilateral Highway construction project. Like he was brave to fight against corruption which disturbed the path of justice. The next is justice. See, justice should prevail in both human beings and state, and is one of the most important virtue in Plato's philosophy because it involves fairness, righteousness, pursuit of what is just and equitable. Um, the concept in republic he presents his ideal city state is a republic in the sense a democracy, a country. He presents his ideal city state that is a nation where justice is the harmony and balance between three different classes: the rulers, the guardians, and the producers. Those are the three classes in the ancient Greek society, where each class has its own function and justice, and is achieved when each class justice is achieved when each class fulfills its role harmoniously without encroaching upon the responsibilities of others. Like Plato asked not to disturb the responsibilities of others and only concentrate on yours. Why to disturb others? Let them do their own work. That is what Plato says. Next one is wisdom. See, wisdom refers to the pursuit of knowledge, understanding, and insights. Like it helps it helps individuals to make sound judgments, okay, and decisions, which is based upon reasoning, that is thoughts and a deeper understanding of reality. And it plays a vital role in terms of guiding and regulating all other virtues like courage, justice, moderation. See, and a good example you can cite here is the efforts of Vijayanagara Emperor Krishnadeva Raya. Through his wisdom, he worked for the betterment of irrigation, which proved to be an important decision during that phase. Next one is a moderation. The moderation, see, it refers to self-control and finding the right balance between one's action and desires. Like it involves restraining from behaving excessively and avoiding both the extremes and finding harmony and equilibrium in one's thought, emotions, or actions. Like the it suggests harmony among the different conflicting elements like self-regulation, obedience to authorities, and the recent clash between India and China on the border could have been avoided if both sides have shown temperance or moderation. So that is something Plato says about. His very relevant teachings to recent time. Concept of philosopher like kings is about the individuals who possess wisdom and virtue and has implications for governance during the time of ancient Greek society. In the current scenario in India, if the PM and CM act like the philosopher king of Plato, their actions can be morally effective and morally correct, which will help in the proper governance and growth of the society. That is what Plato's concept of philosopher says about. And his ideas about the human soul are almost similar to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, which speak about Sadguna, Rajsik Guna, and Tamsik Guna. Like as Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishna has called it to be a merger of Western and Indian philosophy. That is something which can be speaking about the recent times. So, moving on to the next, Aristotle. See, Aristotle again was a philosopher and polymath from ancient Greeks. See, his writings varied upon different subjects. According to Aristotle, again, virtues are character traits which enable individuals to act in ways which promote their own well-being and contribute towards the flourishing of the community. Examples like courage, temperance, generosity, honesty, and justice. This is something Aristotle advocates about. His philosophies are like the golden mean. See, it is nothing but standing between standing in the middle between two extremes. See, taking let's take example uh, the virtue of courage. Okay, so what its deficiency? What we if there is less courage, we call it coward. If there is over courage, we call it foolhardiness. So next is let's take another one, self-control. Virtue called self-control. If there is no self-control, we call it excessive repression of desire. And if there's over self-control, we called it indulgence, over-indulgence. Next one we can call it ambition. A virtue called ambition. See, when there is no proper ambition, the deficiency can be called as sloth. But when there's over ambition, high ambition, we can also call it greed. Like we want to earn more money, more money, more money. You can call it as greed. But that's something golden mean. That is standing between the two extremes. The Buddhist philosophy of Madhyama Pratipat also proposes the same middle way. Next is virtue of justice. See, Aristotle extended the meaning of virtue of justice, where he considered justice as a supreme virtue. Like he bought into two different types of justice: universal justice, that is obedience of laws, and particular justice, that is it should divide or distribute. And he divided particular justice into two types, that is distributive justice, where he implies that the state should divide or distribute goods and wealth among citizens according to the merit. He says that you should not distribute as per you wish, but according to their merit. And also speaks about the remedial or corrective justice, where it relates to volunteer or commercial activities such as hire, sale, or furnishing security. Like he asks, Aristotle asks about not involving in what to say. He says that you cannot just go and take someone's property or something like that, and you should act with honor properly. Examples like modern nations like India, USA should follow the policies or principles of the welfare state. That is how they could achieve the justice. Next is the theory of led reaction. See, ethicality of human action could be gauged to decide whether the action is good or wrong. Right or wrong can be judged only when action, if it is done voluntarily, like no compulsion. There must be some human knowledge of the consequences of that action, and there should be presence of different choices. He says that ethicality can be judged only when the action, if it is good or bad, only in these three cases. Action should be done voluntarily, like without any compulsion. Like voluntarily, like bribing a civil servant at a gunpoint. This is not something voluntary, and there must be some knowledge of the consequences of that action. Again, bribing the civil servant. The civil servant must know that if he or she accepts the bribe, it may cause some trouble to him or her, and there should be presence of different choices. Like the civil servant might accept the bribe or might not accept the bribe, and the person who is giving the bribe might give or might not give the bribe. So that is something which changes according to the reward, and it can be caused only when these three conditions are fulfilled. However, he says that like his philosophies are being criticized for excluding women and slaves from full citizenship and sustaining the unfair social systems and ethics limitations. Like cultural relativism has been criticized in Aristotle's ethical framework, since it does not give clear universal moral principles, and but instead indicates that virtues and ethics are context dependent and related to certain groups or cultures. Like he says that uh, is part of ethics does not give clear universal moral principle but indicates the virtues and ethics are dependent upon various contexts and related to different groups or cultures. He doesn't give one universal and says that it is different to different cultures and people. Next is the inadequate empirical method. Like he was overly dependent on detection and limited empirical observation, which clearly hampered the development of rigorous scientific method, which has since become crucial to modern scientific investigation. Hope you guys understood the three important ones: Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. Now let us get into a quiet later one called Immanuel Kant. See, the Kantian theory of ethics is also known as Kantianism, is a deontological ethical theory developed by German philosopher Immanuel Kant. Like Immanuel Kant is a very very important thinker. See, according to him, his moral principles are universal and apply to all rational beings regardless of their individual desires or interests. See, I told you is a deontological theory which we will be dealing with again in this subject, in this lecture. What the difference between teleological and deontological. However, let's look into these key concepts. See, the categorical imperative, like it is very very important concept and central to the Kantian ethics, where the common individuals to act in a way that can be made into universal. Like one should act in a way that moral principles behind their action could be universally applied. Like he says that don't do to others what you want others to do to you, what you don't want others to do to you. Like example, do not steal. I mean, you should not steal because you don't like it. You should not steal because you don't like it. A better example can be like yes, a better example can be like, don't backstab anyone because you don't like anyone backstabbing you. Okay, just don't do it because you don't want anyone, don't like anyone doing it for you. Okay, this is something imperatives, one of the imperatives which Immanuel Kant places it. And act according to the laws which can be established as the universal laws. Human actions which the person does should benefit as a society as a whole. These are the categorical imperatives which Immanuel Kant brings into place. Next is duty based ethics. See, they are mainly concerned with what people do, not with the consequences of their actions. Like people have a duty to do the right thing even if it produces a bad result. Like during 1857 revolt, Rani Lakshmi Bai fought alongside her with soldiers in the war, thus accepting the responsibility and performing her duty as a queen. They lost the war. The consequences of the action was bad. They lost it, but it was a duty for the Rani Lakshmi Bai to do the right thing and stand along with their soldiers. Next is universalizability. Okay, this means that moral principle should be applied for all rational beings and should apply to any situation or context. The actions should be evaluated only based on whether they can be consistently applied as a universal rule without any contradiction. That is something he speaks about. Next is autonomy. See, Kant again believed that individuals have autonomy or the ability to make their own decisions and act according to their own moral principles. And he emphasized that individuals should not be controlled by external factors such as social pressure or personal desire. Like civil servants should not be forced to take certain decisions due to political force or something like that, but should take decisions rationally, and proper freedom should be given to them. Uh, Before looking into the deontological and teleological differences, let's conclude this Immanuel Kant. Like in a criminal justice system, a deontological approach says that it's used to ensure that a punishment is proportionate and appropriate to the crime committed. Like it makes that you get punished for whatever crime you committed. But the teleological approach, on the other hand, is used by the courts to interpret any legislation, its purpose, direction, or design. Like deontological approach, make sure you get the decision, make sure you get the punishment for the crime character. But on the teleological approach, it says that uh, it, it is used by the courts to interpret if the decisions is that punishment he or she was given is higher, lower, or say or equal to the crime committed, etc. Let's now look into the differences between teleological and deontological approach. Definition. See, teleological determines whether good or bad by looking at its effects, but deontological is solely concerned with what is right and what is wrong. It doesn't bother about effects at all. But teleological wants it considered effects. Next is the focus. See, by connecting the means to the end, it focuses on the justification of the means. Like it connects the way to the final result. It connects how you do it to achieve the final results. So, but on deontological approach, it focuses on how a goal is accomplished and evaluates whether the methods used are moral. Like we can take the good example, like in deontological approach, let's say a civil servant or police officer, okay, finds a man, which is provided by the law accordingly for some issue, or for some parking related issue, or traffic related issue. It is something deontological. But teleological is you want to correct that fellow, that whomever did that mistake, but you used a different thing, like slapping him on road, harassing him in the road. So the mistake was same, a traffic error, a mistake in the traffic, you didn't follow the rules. See, it is meant to deal with both. I mean, it is both teleological and deontological are meant to rectify that or make that person follow the traffic rules. But making it follow the ways used to make them follow is what make the difference between teleological and deontological. As I said, teleological you can even use harsh methods to correct the person, but deontological you have to use methods which are only moral. What is the weakness? See, it's not always feasible to foresee the results of the action. Like, yes, you slap policeman slaps an individual on the road, and he might unfortunately complain to the police officer, being commissioner or whatever maybe, and commission or some suspension or whatever maybe, some problem might occur to the police officer himself. This can be one case, or the individual again could slap back the police officer who slapped him. So this is something, another actions we should see, because it's not always feasible to foresee the actions, results of the action. But deontological on is rigid and unbiased. You have to use only methods which are used to morally right. Like just fine him, okay, for the mistake he has not committed any huge mistake. He has committed a mistake, and just fine him for that, nothing else. Next is perspective. See, it places more emphasis on looking back at the past and making predictions about the future. See, okay, let's take a person is getting arrested. They look at his past and okay, if he, the policeman think that if he has done some mistake and has been jailed in the earlier period, they tend to think, policemen tend to think that this mistake also has been committed by him, he or her. This is something teleological does. It emphasizes on looking back at the past and making predictions about the future. It gives each person's values more consideration. This is something deontological this. It considers the past, present, future of values of man and takes the decisions accordingly. This is something which deontological and teleological approach says. Next one is Thomas Aquinas. See, he was a philosopher and theologian who contributed significantly to the development of Christian ethics in particular. Like few of his ideas were divine law. See, which is said in Bible, like it provided guidance on issues that natural law did not address, like specific religious practices. It actually supplements and clarifies the natural law. Like an example could be like, let's say natural law is punishing, divine law is how to punish. That is something. Let's say a man commits mistake and you have to punish that is the natural law. And the divine law is what mistake he has committed and what punishment should you give for that is something divine law. If he has committed murder, okay, put him in give him lifetime imprisonment. That is something divine law says. It clarifies and supplements the natural law. That is something divine law speaks about. Next is human dignity. See, Aquinas emphasized the intrinsic value of human beings as created in God's image. See, he wants all the human beings to be given deserved respect and dignity regardless of their wealth or status. Next is cardinal values. Again, we can bring it back from old one, like he says about prudence, justice, temperance and courage. He speaks again about the cardinal values. Next one is conflict. Again, he says if there is the conflict between natural law and human law, Aquinas says that actions or laws which is more ethical and moral in nature should be preferred. That is something he says about. Next is ethical philosophy. For him, for Aquinas, ethical philosophy is nothing but about deciding the best way to live one's life. Like this is continuous with the wider ancient and medieval approaches. Like modern theorists tend to assume that people have a vast field of options, that morality has come down. But Aquinas believes that people need to identify the meaningful goals which they need to achieve before they can act. That's what Aquinas says, ethical philosophy. So he says that people need to achieve or believe or identify their meaningful goals before they can act towards those goals. That is what Aquinas clearly mentions about. Next is common good. See, he says that human beings have a duty to promote the common good of the community as a whole, and also held that common good was necessary for the condition of individual flourishing, and that individuals are a responsibility to contribute towards the common good of the society. That is what he says about. So yes, that's it for today's lecture, guys. Hope you understood the Western thinkers, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, Thomas Aquinas and Immanuel Kant. So yes, guys, we have a few more Western thinkers to deal with, which we will be covering in the next lectures. Do comment your doubts if you have any, and keep supporting the channel. We'll come back with next lecture soon. Thank you.